Okay, here's how Miro works. See, it's amazing.
What's everyone doing at David's desk?
Ever since marketing started using Miro's collaborative online whiteboard, he thinks all our other teams should sign up.
Why?
He says Miro's making his meetings disappear. And if every team gets on it, that means even less meetings. They're using Miro for brainstorms, mind maps, customer research.
So could we use Miro instead of having another 100 meetings for every round of feedback?
Yep. You can comment, react to ideas, even leave a recording on the board.
And what about presentations?
There are Miro templates for that.
How do you know so much about Miro?
I've actually been using it all along. I just used a Miro board to plan the best vacation.
Okay, I'm on board.
See how Miro users save up to 80 hours every year by meeting less and doing more. Get on board at Miro.com with 3 boards free forever. That's MIRO.com.
Israel is 5,690 miles away from the U.S., 11 hours by plane. Hate travels faster. In a comment, in a post, in a second. Jewish hate is up 388% in the U.S. Black hate, Muslim hate, and Asian hate are up too. When one hate rises, they all do. Let's stand up to all hate together. Share and wear the blue square from standuptojewishhate.org.
What's up, y'all? Welcome. This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. And as you know, I go around this amazing planet of ours trying to find the best humans on it to come on here to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. Now, I found this amazing artist, and I'm so glad she is here. So her name is Katherine Klimitas, and I think I might have said that right. Did I say that right?
You're close. It's Klimitas.
Klimitas. She is a New Orleans-based artist and designer, and who sold her first watercolor at the age of 10. And when clients learn that Katherine has osteogenesis imperfecta, which is also known as brittle bone disease, they are captivated by her unique perspective. Now, she and her parents stopped counting her broken bones at 500 at the age of 10, and she's 2 feet 7 inches tall, and she gets around in an electric wheelchair and creates all of her art, her jewelry, and her commercial graphic design while lying on her side. Katherine, I'm so glad you are here. Thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here. This is fantastic. I love artists. I love the creativity that comes with that, and the way you have to think sometimes like you're like a child, and I love that. I wish we would never get rid of that, childlike artistic love for things, that we have in our lives. So I'm glad you do that. So you know what, Katherine? I know that you gave me your bio. I read some of it, but I really want to know a little bit more about you. So tell me a little bit about you, Katherine. Tell me about you.
Yes. So as you mentioned, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I have lived here since I was 8 months old. So I literally am from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Right.
I grew up with 2 parents who were veterinarians. So I have always had pets in my life. We've had literally everything. We've had, of course, dogs and cats, but we've also had birds and snakes and tarantulas, and we've had it all.
Nice.
Whether that was in our house or at their offices, one or the other. So animals have always been a huge part of my life. And as you mentioned, I was born with a genetic bone disease called osteogenesis imperfecta, which basically just means my bones break easily and they grow abnormally. It's caused by a collagen deficiency, which, for those of you who don't know, collagen is the material that makes up your body, literally. It makes up your skin and your bones and your connective tissue. So when you don't make the right kind of collagen, or you don't make enough, it causes a lot of problems. So the biggest symptom, as you mentioned, is that I break bones a lot. We did stop counting when I was 10, around 500.
Wow.
But there are some other symptoms as well. Like there's hearing loss and some digestive issues, and some other more minor things. Some people have skin problems. I'm lucky, I don't. But, there are some other things that go along with it. But my parents made sure that I was always in a mainstream school. So most of my life, I guess up until I was a senior in high school, I was the only person in a wheelchair in my school. There was another person when when I was a senior, and so growing up was a little bit different for me than for those around me. Um,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Instead of the only other option here within this area of the country would be to put me into a special ed school. And the problem with that is that most of those schools cater to mentally disabled people. And unfortunately, I mean, that would not be a good place for me.
Right,
I would have been bored out of my mind. And
right.
so, my parents pushed to have me go to a private grade school and then a public high school. And yeah, and so as I said, I was smart, and my mom was constantly trying to find things for me to do because I couldn't run or walk or go play with my friends outside when they were
Right.
doing that. And so she gave me my first watercolor set when I was 5. And from that point on, I just got completely hooked on art because it was something, I mean, it was something literally to keep me busy at first.
Mm-hmm,
But it
mm-hmm.
ended up being something I really enjoyed and something I was pretty good at. And so she got me into all kinds of classes. I, of course, took art in school, but then I also took every summer camp. I went to every summer camp in a 30-mile radius, that they could get me into. And then I had several private art teachers while I was in school and during the summers and on the weekends. So it was great. I got to experience a lot of different media by the time I was a teenager, and I would bring my paints to the office with me when I had to go with my parents on like the weekends or after school or whatever. And because I was bored, I would just start painting their patients, just
Like the
nothing else to do.
animals.
Yeah, and it was crazy because eventually clients started paying me to do that, and I was like 12. So it's really cool when you start making money as a teenager. Or
Yeah.
very teenager. And the flip side of that, though, was that my mom said, okay, well, you're making money now. That means you can pay for all of those things that you want when it's not your birthday or Christmas.
Right.
Of course, she would still pay for what I needed, but, all those extras, yeah, I had to pay for those. Um, but it was great because it taught me money management skills when I was a kid. And it's super helpful since I run my business today, you know. So,
Right. Right.
um, so yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell today. I do a lot of watercolor art. It's kind of no surprise that my subject matter is almost always animals, just because it's what I know and what I love.
What you love, yeah.
Yeah, and I went to Loyola University here in New Orleans and graduated with a BA in graphic design. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I decided originally I was going to go for fine art, but I decided that the amount of art I would have to put out to support myself financially would
Mm.
be physically impossible. I mean,
Mhm,
there's
mhm.
just no way. And so I said, well, I have already taken all these classes, so what can I do? And I said, well, I still want to be creative. I still want to do something. I still want my day job to be something that I enjoy most of the time. So
Mhm.
I went ahead and switched my major to graphic design, and I mean, it's good. I do
Yeah,
branding and work for small businesses and nonprofits, and yeah,
that's
good.
great. So let me take you back a little bit. So how was it for you, um, going to school, being the only one with the wheelchair, like that kind of stuff? Because, I mean, you're an adult now, you have your own life, you're doing everything the way you want to, you have your job, all that stuff. But how was it as a kid? Was there something that you adjusted to? Was it something that you were frustrated about? How did you go through that part of your life?
I mean, it depends on what day you ask.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess that's
you
true.
know,
But let's
yeah,
look at let's look at when you were bored at home and the kids were outside playing, or when you were like entering school and you said you're the only one in high school that had a wheelchair. How was that?
that never really bothered me. Me being the
Okay.
only one in a wheelchair. That because I'm lucky that my parents pushed for me to be included as much as
Yeah.
possible. So
Yeah.
I never really felt unincluded, except
That's
when I
good.
really was, you know,
Yeah.
by necessity. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I yeah, it was hard as especially when you're like 7, 8, 9, 10, and
Yeah.
your friends are out doing something you can't do and you really want to.
Mhm.
But usually my parents would find other things for me to do.
Mhm.
And my friends thought it was cool to hang out with me. So a
Right.
lot of times what would happen is a group would go and do whatever it was that I couldn't do, but then one or two would stay behind with me and we'd go do something else fun. You know, or like
Oh, good.
if there was a field trip that I couldn't go on, like let's say, I mean, this happened a couple times. The class went on a hiking field trip. Well, clearly I'm not going on a hiking field trip, right?
Right.
But instead, my mom took me and two of my friends to a nature center where we learned the same thing, just without hiking.
Right. Right. Oh, it's very
Right. So
creative.
and so the
Mhm.
school would allow us to do that
Mhm.
when it was possible.
I'm
But
glad
yeah.
that your parents did that. I'm glad your parents did that. I really am, because they could have definitely taken another route, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
really just handicapped your mind and like really overdid it with not letting you do anything. So I think yeah, I mean, I think you would agree that it actually helped you to
Oh
put you in
yeah.
mainstream and help you like develop friendships and learn in school, right?
Absolutely, and it doesn't just help me. You know, I this kind of goes to school inclusion. Like I look at people who were never, you know, who are now adults who had never been around somebody with a disability. You know, they've never had
Right.
experience around people who were different than them, and they do things like stare or they make inappropriate comments that they don't mean to be inappropriate. They're just ignorant.
Right.
And my the people who grew up with me don't do that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they know. I mean, they
Right.
just, you know, they grew up. It was normal for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so yeah, so it was great for me, but it was also good for them.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. That's a gift, right? It just made me smile in the beginning because you're like, oh, and some people with my condition have skin problems, but I'm very lucky I don't have that. I'm like, isn't that a beautiful,
I hope,
beautiful way to look at it, right?
yeah, yeah. Plus, it's a plus.
It's a plus.
Yeah.
So then you got into high school and then you got into marketing. How did you find that part of your life, right? So now you're becoming an adult, you're finishing college, you're going, you got your degrees and you're going out to go get a job or go to work. How did that work out for you? Was that a challenge for you to land the job you wanted or go on interviews? How did that feel?
Well, I had I'm lucky because Loyola's program is great. What they do is at the end of your senior year, your whole class puts on a show
Okay.
of vinyl projects, and they invite all of the local professionals who are looking
Oh,
to hire, basically. So you know, you before you even leave school, before you even get the diploma, you're already making connections
that's
with
great.
local professionals, which is great. And I did have a couple of offers to go into design firms, but I had pretty much decided I was going to work for myself. Um,
Yeah.
well before that, just
Yeah.
because I mean, I grew up with two parents who own their own businesses,
Right.
so
Right.
like that was not a foreign concept for
Right.
me. I had watched them do the behind the scenes stuff. I had watched them hire employees and do the taxes and you know all the things that as the customer you don't see, you know, but as the business
Right.
owner you have to deal with. Um, so I mean that part was not scary at all. I mean I
Good.
knew it would help me, and you know I would find the right people and whatever. The hardest part is just finding clients, you know,
Right.
especially
Right.
when you know you don't know anybody yet. Um,
Right.
and so that did take a few years, but I had connections through my parents, and I had connections through friends and friends of friends, and word of mouth,
Hmm.
and sometimes you take a job that you get paid nothing for, but you get a good
The
recommendation.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
Get that.
really valuable in the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, you do a lot of volunteer work because that's what's there, and
Right. Right.
that's how you
That's
build your
real. That's
portfolio.
real.
Yeah, and I know somebody who was kind of in the same boat I was recently, and they're like, "Well, I don't want to do any free work." I'm like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you,
Right.
but you're gonna have to. I mean,
Right.
people are not gonna hire you just based on you're, a nice person. Like
Right. It's
that's not
true.
the way it works.
It's true. It's
So
true.
yeah,
Yeah. You have to, and I think that's fair, for all of us to kind of, and I've done it too as a coach and as a chef and everything, right? You give your time at first, and it makes you better, actually. It just really
yeah,
sharpens you up and it makes you better. Because if you're willing to do it for free, imagine what you're willing to do when you get paid, right?
right,
So
right.
tell me about how you transitioned into doing your artwork full time. And I know you have your own Etsy store and the whole thing. So tell me a little bit about what's going on there.
So my life is kind of segregated into painting and design and jewelry, but that's not quite as often. Um, it's mainly painting and design, and
Okay.
so it all depends. People say, "Oh, well, do you paint on certain days and design on certain days?" I in a perfect world, yes, but this is not a perfect world, and I have tried to make that happen, but I
Right.
always fail. It never works. It never works because I'll be painting, and then I'll get the call from the client. Oh my God, the printer, blah 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 blah. They need this, this, and this, and they need it in 45 minutes.
Of
You know,
course. Of
and
course.
yeah, and so of course I have to stop and deal with the design work and whatever, and yeah, it never works out. But so yeah, so I do a little bit of both, which is great. It's great for my brain because it
Right.
lets me use my brain in different ways. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think have made this very clear, but I get bored very easily. So it's great for me to have a couple of different options, a couple of different things to do, a couple of different ways to make money. Um, yeah, and it works. I had pretty much decided that I was going to work on myself out of my home just because,
Okay.
there are days where I really hurt and I can't
Yeah.
do things or I can't move right or, putting on a bra is impossible. I mean,
Right.
like
Right.
there are a lot of days like that. And, when you're at home, all the accommodations you need are right.
Right. Right. Right.
And I can work my schedule around, like I have an aide with me all the time. I have to be compliant to their schedule. Also,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
live with my mom, so her schedule, um, all that. We also have 5 dogs, so they take a lot. They're literally locked behind 2 doors on the other side of the house right now, and I'm hoping nobody hears them in the next few minutes. But
That's funny.
yeah.
Do they do it, I know that you and your parents, stopped counting at 500, which I cannot imagine. So, and now that you are an adult and you have the dogs and your businesses and stuff, do you still have to deal with, breaking your bones and stuff, or are you more careful? Like, how are you navigating that part?
No, I mean, so what happens is when you go through puberty, your breaking rate goes down significantly. I
Okay.
also my parents had a couple of surgeries done on me when I was really young. Like I think the first ones were I was like 4, and the next one maybe I was 7, something like that. And it's called rotting, but basically it's putting metal rods through your long bones, through like
Okay.
your legs and your arms, to give the bone stability, so that when it
Okay.
does break, it doesn't. We call it displace, but it doesn't break apart.
Okay.
It just fractures, and then it's easier to heal. The cool thing about, I mean, I guess the cool thing about OI is that because there is less bone there to heal, it doesn't take as long. So,
Oh,
like,
okay.
if I break a rib, I can be healed in like a week. I mean,
Okay.
it just depends. And it depends on where it is and how bad it is, and if I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing to get it well, which is, hit or miss sometimes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I still deal with it. Like, I broke a rib this weekend. I mean, and it
Oh.
hurts, and it's, like, sleeping has not been the best. The
Oh,
best.
and you're on here with me?
Sleep.
That's so
But no, it's
sweet.
fine. It's like, it just it happens. I mean, it still happens. It's
Yeah.
certainly not to the degree that it used to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
I mean,
good.
I don't know that there were very few days where I didn't go to school with something wrapped.
Yeah.
An arm, a
Yeah.
leg, finger, whatever, something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure. So tell me about, you have a book also, don't you?
I do. I have 2 books. Um,
Okay. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I have one called Looking Up, which I mentioned we, as a design class, we had to do a project at the end of the semester, and this was mine. So our professors, literally the only direction they gave us was do a project that you can show at the end of the year that nobody else but you can do. That's it. That's all we got.
Wow.
And so um, they helped us, they guided us and everything. And we had to submit 3 ideas to them, and then they helped narrow it down and, helped us kind of flush it out and make it happen. But I ended up writing this book called Looking Up and designing it. It's basically everything we talked about here today, plus some. And it's my story and how I live and my perspective. It's got a lot of photography that I took, and obviously some art and graphic design as well.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's a
It's probably
nice.
the prettiest project they've gotten.
There were some good projects that year. We had some good projects. Um, but it's a nice coffee table book. People enjoy it. And then my second book came out right before COVID, which totally sucked that part. But anyway, I mean the timing was just awful. But um, my I put a lot of my paintings on products to sell. So like I'll
Mhm.
put paintings on mugs and towels and pillows and things like that. And I would do these fairs or these shows, and people would say, "Oh, do you have a painting with a black lab on it?" And I'd say, "No, because I paint people's pets. I don't paint random dogs."
Right.
Like that's and I can't use somebody's pet on something else I'm selling. And so I said, okay, like I had been asked this a lot, and I said, okay, I'm gonna just take the most common 8 or 10
Uh-huh.
dog breeds. I'm gonna just paint a quick little couple day painting that's just a portrait of the dog breed, and then I'm gonna have them so that I can put them on all these products. Well,
Right.
the problem is that 8 or 10 became 64 very, very quickly. And
Oh
um,
gosh.
yeah, so halfway through, I have a really good friend who's also an artist, and she happened to be at my house I don't know, one day. Yeah, I guess about halfway through. And she said, you know, you should name this and you should turn it into a book. And I was like, well, I don't want
Hmm.
to write a book. I've written a book. I don't particularly like writing. I make
Right.
myself write a blog. I don't like it. Like I don't want to do that. And she said, well, you can hire a writer. I said, well, that's possible. So it turned out that the timing was such that my neighbor across the street, who we're close with, was resigning from her full time job because she wanted to get into creative writing again.
Ah.
And yeah, she was a lawyer and wanted to get into creative writing again. And so she was over one night having wine or something, and I was telling her about it, and she said, "Well, I want to try out for it. I want to submit something, to see if you like my writing style." And I had already asked for submissions from somebody else as well, so I got those two. And Yvonne, her name is Yvonne, submitted something that was written from the perspective of the dog, and it was
Oh,
so cute and so
that is so
clever.
cute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. And yeah, and that was it. I was like, yes, perfect. We're doing this. So It's called Breed All About Us. And
Oh, that's cute.
what's really cool is she interviewed people who own the breed to get the information. So, I mean, we, of course, did the technical research, like how old the breed is and what they're used for and all that kind of thing. But it's other things like the St. Bernard is one of my favorites because it says something about, don't let them get bored or they'll eat your couch, which is a story that somebody told her that they came home and their St. Bernard had literally eaten their couch.
Right.
So it's fun.
I believe it.
Great coffee table book. Kids love it because they can, find their dog. Dog lovers love it. Art lovers love it. So
that's great. That's great. You're also somebody who's very inspiring. And I don't know if you ever thought about, or have you? Are you a speaker at all?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. I was gonna say you gotta be.
I know. I am not doing as much as I would like to be doing. I'm still kind of new at doing it. I joined Toastmasters a few years ago, and I've been working on actually being a good public speaker. But I speak to a lot of med students and physical therapy students. I've done a few Rotary clubs and other associations like that. Yeah, some school talks, things like that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Good. I'm glad you're exploring that and doing Toastmasters. I did Toastmasters too. I love them.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're doing that because you have a great personality and you have this wittiness about you, a little sarcasm I see coming through. And I think that's just very inspiring. And I know my audience, I have a really good audience. They're constantly DMing me and calling and all that kind of stuff. And I know that they are good spirited people, and I call them straight talkers. That's what they are. Because we just say things the way they are and just move on. It's truth. That's all it's about. But you know what, Katherine, I really want them to support you and follow you and buy your art and all of that. So give us that information, your Etsy store or your website or whatever it is you'd like to give us.
Yes. So my website is KAK, which are my initials, KAK Art NOLA, NOLA, like New Orleans, Louisiana.com. And you can actually get to everything from there. But my Etsy store is also KAK Art. I mean, you can find it. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, newly on TikTok, so be kind. LinkedIn. That might be it. I think I have a
that might be it. You're omnipresent.
I know. I think that might be it. But yeah, I'm very findable. You can find me. It's KAK Art and Designs, and
awesome.
I do a lot of live painting and stuff on my Instagram, so a lot of people are interested in seeing that. So yeah,
that's wonderful. Well, Katherine, I cannot tell you, this was a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad you came on. I'm sorry about your rib, but I'm really glad you're here and that you were able to share, love and light and share this space with me, because I love speaking with people that really take life by the horns, no matter what life throws at them. And that's how I see you, just taking life by the horns and doing what you got to do because you want to. And I just admire people like that. And I admire you. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
I'm really grateful. Guys, thank you guys so much for joining us and hanging out with us. I know you love Katherine because I do. So I know you do. I'm going to make sure to link all of her information below so that you don't miss anything and that you can go ahead and follow her, buy her art, support her, buy her book, all that phenomenal stuff. Thank you guys for being here. Until next time.
I know fitness is important, but I don't have time to keep up with all the fads and celebrity workouts that come and go. I need something backed by real science that will get real results and fits into my schedule. Caliber has been a lifesaver. It's a science-based fitness coaching program covering strength, nutrition, and healthy habits, completely customized to my needs and abilities. All I did was fill out their online assessment, and Caliber did the rest. The best part is, I'm not in it alone. Caliber paired me with an expert personal trainer who checks on my progress and keeps me motivated and on track. And I'm not the only one getting results. Caliber is top rated on Trustpilot with 4.9 out of 5 stars. On average, members achieve a 20% or better improvement in their body composition by week 12 of the program. Start a science-based fitness program you'll actually stick with. Get $100 off at caliberstrong.com/podcast. That's caliberstrong.com/podcast.
Okay, here's how Miro works. See, it's amazing.
What's everyone doing at David's desk?
Ever since marketing started using Miro's collaborative online whiteboard, he thinks all our other teams should sign up.
Why?
He says Miro's making his meetings disappear. And if every team gets on it, that means even less meetings. They're using Miro for brainstorms, mind maps, customer research.
So could we use Miro instead of having another 100 meetings for every round of feedback?
Yep. You can comment, react to ideas, even leave a recording on the board.
And what about presentations?
There are Miro templates for that.
How do you know so much about Miro?
I've actually been using it all along. I just used a Miro board to plan the best vacation.
Okay, I'm on board.
See how Miro users save up to 80 hours every year by meeting less and doing more. Get on board at Miro.com with 3 boards free forever. That's MIRO.com.